Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Dome at Home, the Manitoba Museum's award-winning Planetarium online astronomy show thing. I'm your host, Scott Young, and it's great to be back with you. Thanks for meeting up with us. We're a week later than our usual schedule. Last week I had a conflict. I was doing some observing with a donor to the museum, actually, and that was the only night we could get together, and so we had to push off the show. But it was a good time. We had a little bit of clear sky, and since then, it's been pretty rainy. People checking in the comments there. Nice to see you all. Most people are bemoaning the sudden change in weather. Yeah, it's not been certainly it's the first day of school for a lot of people, the first week of school at least, and fall came in like a lion, basically. I think the temperature here in Winnipeg at the airport, the low was 0.4 degrees. I covered up my tomatoes. No frost here, but I think there was a little bit out east. And then we didn't quite reach the record low temperature for this day. So today in Winnipeg is the coldest September 5th since they started keeping accurate records in 1880. So very unusual. And on Monday, we were 35 degrees Celsius. So we went from extreme temperature to extreme temperature. And that's, of course, what we expect to see with all the global warming and climate change that's going on. A lot of people online are saying, oh, well, what happened to global warming because it's cold today? Stephen Colbert had a great riposte to that. He was like, in other news, world hunger is over because I ate a sandwich. Global warming is more than just the weather you're feeling in a given day. Anyway, we won't go too far into that. It is a great day for contemplating the universe. Not a great day for looking at it here, but hopefully some of you out there have some nice skies. It's fall is, I think, my favorite time of the year to observe. You get still some of the summer stars are still hanging around because they should be setting earlier, but it's getting darker earlier as well. And so that sort of counteracts. And so we'll see the summer stars well into the fall, but it won't be so hot. We won't have so many mosquitoes. It's nice, cool sweater weather. It's, I think, my favorite time for observing. Oh, hey, Hollis, welcome. Is it clear down where you are in Connecticut? Yeah, we're looking at a lot of rain for a little while here. Anyway, we have a whole bunch of things to go into today, and so we are going to start off with a little bit of updates at our planetarium down at the Manitoba Museum. It's the end of the summer schedule and the beginning of the new fall schedule, and so all of our shows are sort of changing over, or at least changing the times that they're available. So I just want to update you on those. First of all, we're holding over Wilfred Buck's Star Stories. Wilfred Buck is a Cree sky teller and basically has been almost single-handedly rediscovering and collating the sky knowledge of his people. And he's got a show that we're doing at the Planetarium. Fantastic show. Highly recommend it. And that'll be running during the day for people that are down during the week, and then also on weekends. We also have sort of a fall favorite, Aurora. This is the time that a lot of tourists from all over the world start coming to Manitoba because they want to see the Northern Lights. And the best time to do that is kind of in the fall time. You don't want to do it when the bears are wandering around here. You want to do it when the bears have already are basically not around the area of Churchill. And so this is usually coming into October is when that happens. But it's also a time when it's getting darker earlier, and with all the solar activity, I'm hoping we'll get to see some Northern Lights. So that show's running during the week. We still have our kids show running on the weekend, Voyage of the Stars, which is I call it a kids show because it has cartoon characters, but it is all about the similarities between exploring space and exploring the deep ocean. And even though it's told with sort of a kid flair and storytelling style, it's got some really good and really beautiful scenes, real 360-degree visuals from under the ocean as well. So that's pretty cool. And this is a show that we ran over the summer. It's a live show. I wrote it and produced the visuals for it, and the staff that present it add their personal flair and style to it, and so that's running on the weekends as well. That's a holdover as well. Craig asks, what will the planetarium be showing tomorrow for First Friday? Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, First Friday, the museum, science gallery, and planetarium, starting at 4 o'clock until 9 o'clock, is free admission to everybody. And so it's part of a big sort of arts and culture event that happens down in the Exchange District. There's all sorts of artist studios and theaters and all sorts of places that are open that participate in this all throughout the Exchange. And so we'll run free planetarium shows. This month we are running a sort of a quick sky tour of just what's up in the sky, live constellations and planets and things like that. And then next month we'll be bringing in a different show that I can't quite tell you about yet, but it'll be a good one as well. Let's see. Stan, you went to see Star Stories. I'm glad you. I'd love to hear your review of it at some point. And yeah, let us know. Oh, very cool. Hey Dale, James and Dale from Emerson. Nice to see you guys. All right, that's enough of the planetarium schedule. This will be the schedule until basically the month of December. For December, we put in sort of our winter holiday programming, and then after that, we'll be opening a new show that I also can't tell you about yet, but that'll be coming up. All right, let's take a look here at our evening sky. It's finally getting dark early enough. This is the view in basically this week around 8:30. The sun is already down and the stars are starting to come out. Off in the west, the first star that you'll see sort of halfway up the sky is Arcturus. We've been watching Arcturus in the ice cream cone shape of Boötes for basically since springtime, and it's just starting to disappear into the twilight. The very first star that you will see will actually probably be straight up over your head, though. If you look up right towards the zenith, or the point straight up overhead, the brightest star in the sky right now is Vega, and that'll probably be the first star you see as it starts to get dark. Vega is part of the summer triangle, which goes over to Deneb over here and then over to Aquila down here. It looks like a nice big slice of pizza. The summer triangle is also something we've been watching for all of the summer, basically. But as those stars start to come out and as the sky gets darker, of course, you start to get a better view of the stars. And it takes a little while for all the stars to come out. By 9:30, you really start to get to the point where you can see the constellations. And so we'll just do a brief overview of the constellations. We're going to start way off here in the north. We're using Stellarium, as always, our free planetarium software that you can download yourself. Sort of over in the northwest, we have the Big Dipper, which is the seventh brightest stars in the constellation of Ursa Major. The Big Dipper is heading down towards its lowest point in the evening right now. It sort of circles around the North Pole star throughout the course of the seasons. And so right now it's starting to get down low in the northwest. The two pointer stars here, the two in the bowl of the Big Dipper farthest from the handle, they point right to the North Star, Polaris, and the North Star is directly north, always directly north. No matter how the sky changes, no matter how everything moves around, the North Star stays in one spot. Everything else sort of revolves around it. That's the North Pole of the sky, essentially. The North Star is part of the Little Dipper, which is tough to see. I can see these two stars at the end here from my backyard, but these other ones in here, they're pretty faint. And unless you can get away from the lights, I have a hard time seeing them. But Polaris is nice and bright. When the Big Dipper starts getting low, another constellation starts getting higher. It's sort of opposite in the sky from the Big Dipper. It's Cassiopeia the Queen, or well, right now it looks kind of like the numeral 3, or maybe a squished letter W, or an M, depending on how you look at it. Cassiopeia is another constellation that's up all year. It's just for half the year it's down low and we might not notice it, but it's coming into prominence into the fall and winter, and we'll get to see that nice and high in the sky. If we spin along over to the west, we've got our star Arcturus here and Boötes, the ice cream cone. A number of fainter constellations in the in the area. This is Corona Borealis, which I think we've talked about, kind of a little smiley face of stars. This big sprawling group of stars around here, this is Hercules. He's got so many faint stars that it's, you know, they really went out of their way to try and draw some kind of humanoid figure. They forgot his head, but at least he's got arms and legs. But the part that is actually relatively visible, if we get rid of this, is kind of a waste paper basket of 4 stars. It's called the Keystone, and that actually is relatively easy to spot in the evening once it gets dark enough. If we keep moving along towards the south and the southwest, well, there's that summer triangle almost right up overhead and then stretching down towards the south. And underneath it, we have the teapot of Sagittarius here. Now I'm going to let the sky get a little bit darker so that we can get some of the Milky Way to come out, because the Milky Way is really kind of a summer thing. And here, let's go a little darker. And I'm just gonna get rid of some of these things here. There we go. Okay, here I've exaggerated things, but the Milky Way, this hazy band of light, goes right through the summer triangle and then right down towards the southern horizon, the southwest right now, I guess, down where the teapot of Sagittarius is. So that stretches all across the sky. In the summer, we're looking at the best parts of the Milky Way, and I'm going to show you some pictures sent in by some of our viewers that will really show off the summer Milky Way. It's a great thing to look for. Over along farther to the south, oh, I see that also. I'm just a couple days ahead. There we go. Now we're set for tonight again. The moon is, you know, we had first quarter moon a few days ago. The moon's starting to get bright already. But at this time of the year, it stays pretty low in the sky. So if you have trees in your backyard, the moon might not interfere too much with your direct view. All of these fall constellations are pretty faint. This is Capricorn, the half goat, half fish constellation. It doesn't look like either. This is Aquarius, the water carrier. Apparently a guy holding a jar, spilling water out into the sky. A big sprawling constellation full of very, very faint stars, hard to see. And then this little circle here is one of the 2 fish in Pisces, the fish. This is one fish, and then this is the second fish. And these 2 fish, because they don't want to lose each other in the ocean, have their tails tied together with a long ribbon that keeps them together. Those constellations are all pretty hard to see. Even though they're famous ones, the zodiac, you know, the Pisces and Aquarius and Capricorn, those are some of the signs of the zodiac, and the moon and the planets and the sun all move through those constellations, but they aren't very bright. The stars are not very bright, the patterns are not very defined, and so it's pretty easy to miss them, quite frankly. Oh, hey, Forest family, nice to see you guys. Welcome, welcome. Once you get up above those zodiac constellations, though, we do come to sort of I would say, the centerpiece of the fall sky. It's this big sprawling group here. It's made of 4 bright stars that actually form almost a perfect square. Just a complete coincidence that they just happen to be arranged that way. The stars are not connected in any way. But this is called the Great Square of Pegasus. Now, I've watched, you know, Hercules and all those movies where you get Pegasus, the flying horse. None of them have been square, so I'm not quite sure why they chose this part of the sky to represent Pegasus, but they add a few things here. These are, I think, legs, and then this is the horse's neck, and this is its head. That'd be the tip of its nose. Here I've got some artwork here. It doesn't really help. Oh, it's only half a horse. Oh, that helps. Okay. Anyway. The square is pretty easy to see. It's not quite as pop into your view as the Big Dipper is, but it's pretty close. So if you go out and you look towards the southeast, after it gets dark, you're going to see this sort of square balanced up on one corner, because that's sort of the way we're looking at it right now. Attached to it is a long chain of stars that you probably saw in the picture was not a horse. That's Andromeda. Andromeda the princess, and another constellation that's not super easy to find, but it's right by, here, let's pull this down. Here's Cassiopeia, the W. So if you can find Cassiopeia, the pointy part of the W sort of points back towards Andromeda. Now, there's a few things in this area of the sky worth looking for. First of all, right now, there is a bright extra star in amongst the stars of Pisces. Right down here, this is the planet Saturn. We'll be talking about it later in the show. It's coming into its best visibility for the year, and it's much better than it was last year. If you've been watching the show for a while, we talked about Saturn. It stayed very low in the sky. It was hard to get a good view with the telescope to see the rings and stuff. It's higher this year, so it's easier to see. It gets above my neighbor's trees, so I don't have to move too far to be able to see it. But we'll talk more about that a little bit later in the show. So Saturn is down below Pegasus right now. In Andromeda, this is one of the cooler things in the sky, I think. Okay, so we've got our square of Pegasus, and then we've got this chain of stars that is kind of, these ones are fairly bright. There's supposed to be other ones for arms and legs, but basically this chain of stars is pretty bright. If you count the stars, you go from Pegasus, you go 1, 2 stars to the left, and then you go up 1 star and then up to where the second star would be if you went the same distance. There's actually a fuzzy patch there. And that fuzzy patch, it looks like a little piece of Milky Way that's become detached. And that's kind of appropriate because that is the Andromeda galaxy. That is the most distant thing that you can see with the human eye. You need to be in a relatively dark location to see it. I mean, I have seen it from the suburbs, but barely. If you really want to be able to notice it, you really want to get to, a park or outside the city and on a moonless night to really get a good view of it. In binoculars, it's lovely. It is a spiral galaxy containing perhaps 1 trillion other suns. And it has a couple of satellite galaxies going around it. There's one there, and there's one there, and there's a bunch more scattered around. You can see some dark dust lanes all the way around. In the very core of the galaxy, there's a supermassive black hole. It's the full meal deal when it comes to a galaxy. It's pretty impressive. And you can see it just with your eye. It is so far away that I can never remember how many zeros I have to list when I'm listing it in kilometers. So astronomers use the term light years. A light beam travels roughly 9.5 trillion kilometers in 1 year. It's not instant. Over long distances, it takes some time. So the Andromeda galaxy, 2.5 million light years away. When you look at that, the little pieces of light, the photons that are entering your eye from that little fuzzy spot have traveled 2.5 million years from this galaxy, and they have now entered your brain and stimulated an image in your brain. That's pretty cool. Most distant thing that most people can see with the unaided eye. There are a couple of other galaxies that some people with really good vision have claimed to see from really exceptional conditions, but for most of us, this is it. Okay, now we've moved here. Let me zoom out again. Now we've moved back over, almost back to the Big Dipper. There's our Big Dipper coming in on the left there, but we've got the beginnings of the winter constellations already. Before midnight in September, the winter constellations start to make an appearance. In fact, some of them never fully disappear. This bright star here, Capella, it's visible all year round. It actually just skims the northern hemisphere right around sunset. Right now, if you go out and look straight north and you have perfectly clear skies, you'll see a single solitary star glowing in the haze. It's visible all year long. It's a constant reminder that winter is always coming. But we won't worry about winter right now. The 2 constellations I want to point out, we've got Cassiopeia here, and below it we have a sort of a long chain of stars with a little fish hook on it called Perseus. Perseus is the hero in Clash of the Titans, if you saw any of those movies. Halfway between them, there's a beautiful little double cluster of stars, and we're going to see an image of that coming up as well. But I wanted to sort of give you the context of where it is. This is another great binocular target that is wonderful to check out. And then as we come back around, we're back to the north, and that's where the constellations are right now. Now, there are other planets that you can see, but they're not visible in the evening. We have to jump forward, and if you jump forward, new constellations rise in the east, you're going to get to see all the winter constellations. Right around 2:30 in the morning, we start to see Orion rising. Orion is one of the most famous constellations. Belt of 3 stars here, big broad shoulders, tiny little head, and then legs and arms and so on. It actually looks like Orion looks like what it's supposed to be. Near that, oh, and I think I'm just going to turn off our satellites here. There we go. Near that is Gemini the twins. Also kind of looks like 2 stick figures, if you can believe that. 2 constellations right next to each other. There's an extra star in Gemini right now. That is the planet Jupiter. And in fact, it is right next to a regular star of Jupiter right now. So a regular star of Gemini, pardon me. So Jupiter rises 2:33 in the morning right now. And as it gets higher, you think, wow, that's the brightest thing in the sky. It's brighter than anything. And then Venus rises. Around 4:30 in the morning, over in the east, Venus starts to rise. Now, Venus is pretty close to the sun, second planet out from the sun. We're always looking towards the sun. So before it really gets all too high, the sky starts to brighten up. And, oh, I forgot to turn this back on. There we go. So as the dawn starts and the stars start to fade away, by about 6, all you'll be able to see is Venus, Jupiter, and then a few of the brighter stars as they fade away into dawn. So those are your 3 big planets right now. In the evening, Saturn, and then in the very morning sky, Jupiter and Venus. All right. Let me just check the chat. Oh, hi, Vivian. Nice to see you. Glad you're here. Let us take a look at some of your images. Andy and Ruby sent this set in. And this is actually a part of the sky that we just looked at. Let me put some context here. There's Perseus, that sort of long chain of stars that's sort of hooked around into a little fish hook, and there's actually a little star cluster in there. There's the double star cluster that I mentioned, a beautiful view in binoculars. But there's another really cool object in this field of view, and it's not an official object. It's not a astrophysically significant object, but it is one that's pretty cool. It's over in this direction, sort of to the left of Perseus, and you can kind of see just a long chain of stars. Now, these stars are not connected in any way. They're not next to each other in real space. Some are farther and some are closer, but it looks really nice in a telescope. And here's sort of a closer view of Andy's shot here, and you've got this beautiful cascade of stars. It's called Kemble's Cascade. Father Lucien Kemble was a astronomer that lived out in Saskatchewan and just did a lot of visual observing. He had a good-sized telescope, and he would describe what he saw, and he would sketch what he saw, and he went out of his way to sort of help people learn to experience the universe themselves. He was one of those sort of mentor folks to a lot of astronomers. And so it was kind of fitting when he just noticed this, and he said, you know, there's nothing really special about it. I just think it's pretty. I mean, what a great reason to identify something in the sky and remember it. And so it's been named Kemble's Cascade in his honor. Great shot, Andy. And I'd really like to do a little bit more on Father Luke. I'd never met him in person, but he was on this new internet thing when I moved back from my couple of years in the States. And I got to know him online and was actually supposed to meet up with him at a star party just before he passed away. Really wonderful guy, though. And so we're going to talk more about him in a future show. Thanks, Andy, for sending in those shots and for reminding me that you had sent in those shots. Oh yeah, there's just the image there. Jackie sent us this shot, and it was an interesting email because the subject line just said Unukalhi. And I was like, is that like a greeting in another language? Is that like just some AI generated phrase? What was going on? And then I realized that it was from Jackie, who I recognized from the chat. And so I opened it, and I knew it was okay to open. And it's this beautiful picture of, here's the bottom of the picture. It's a long, long kind of picture. They're out camping, and things are well lit there. And then it sort of stretches up to the sky overhead. And as they were observing, looking at some of the constellations they found, Jackie discovered this cool little triangle of stars here that actually really does stand out in the sky. And looked it up and found out that it was part of the constellation Serpens and sort of the head of the snake. So this little triangle is the head of the snake, and then the snake goes off to these other stars. This is Arcturus and Boötes over here, just for reference. So there's half the ice cream cone. There's the smiley face of Corona Borealis. So it's right in that direction. And this star's name is Unukalli. And so that's where that name comes from. This is a great shot. Thanks, Jackie, for sending it in. I love seeing an image where you can get the whole sense of the landscape and the ground. I had to enhance it a little bit just so that it would show in the stream here. But beautiful, beautiful shot. Very nice. Thank you very much. Okay, I have to go through all that. Ulrika, regular contributor to the show as well, sent in some shots of the waning crescent moon. I've got we see a lot of moon shots here, which is really fine. I love to see all the different moon shots, but usually it's the other side of the crescent. Usually it's this side that's lit up, because that's the one that's visible in the evening. So catching this one really gives you, takes a little bit more effort, because it's a morning kind of thing. You can really see a bunch of the craters that are just being lit up by the sun as it rises right along that terminator, or I guess as it sets right along that terminator. So this is like a sunset view of the moon. You can just barely see the dark side of the moon in this image, but luckily Ulrika sent another one where the exposure is greater. It washes out the bright part, but now you can really see the dark side of the moon. This is lit up by earthshine. There's no sunlight hitting this part of the moon, because the sun is off in this direction. So the sun is lighting up this side, and this side is all dark. But the sun is also lighting up the earth, and the earth that is facing towards the moon is reflecting some of that light and lighting up the dark side of the moon. So it's not perfectly dark, even on that side, even when you can't see the sun, because there's other things in the sky, and the earth gets pretty bright, much brighter than a full moon is for us. So great shots, Ulrika. Thank you very much. One of my friends from the Astronomical Society, Chris Keller, who I've known for a long time, I don't know that I've ever seen many of his astrophotos, though, at least not recently. And he sent me a couple because I asked, hey, send me your pictures. And I was just blown away. Like, this is an amazing picture. This is the globular cluster in Hercules, M13. He's got a 10-inch telescope and a digital camera and all the goodies and stuff like that. And it is a spectacular image. Like, look at the beautiful colors of the stars. You can see the yellow ones and the blue ones and the white ones and things like that. The stars are just pinpoint. The track, like, this is like magazine quality imagery, Chris. So thank you for sending this in. And he sent me a second one as well, of a galaxy, well, a bunch of galaxies. This is galaxy NGC 7331, which is called the Deer Lick Galaxy. And I don't like that name, because it's not named because it looks like a deer lick or anything like that. It's named because some guy, who is just some guy, was observing in Deer Lick Park when he saw it, and he just started calling it that, and somehow it caught on. I think people just don't like numbers, and they want to have a name, but I'd like the name to be like the Whirlpool Galaxy. It looks like a whirlpool. And, things like that. It makes more sense. But just because that's where you were when you observed it, that doesn't work for me. Anyway, beautiful galaxy. Lots of companion galaxies here around it. Some of them are big, some of them are small. There's one that's really tiny down there that barely shows up. And this is the galaxy that recently had a supernova in it. And so if I change the contrast a little bit here, oh, yeah, you can still see it a little bit. Right near the very core is the supernova that went off about a month ago that's in there. So great captures, Chris. These are amazing shots. I'm impressed. Let's see. I think we've got a couple more here. Oh, this is a great. Gia Walker, also a regular contributor to the show, was out in Pinawa this summer and wanted to do an all-night photo session, but her friends were like, no, there's a lot of bears around. So after some back and forth, they decided that they would go out, and they had someone to sort of stand guard with an air horn and bear spray. And after they had made that decision, they ran into a bear right there, and it went up the tree and was eating acorns and things like that. So definitely they were around, but they persevered, and it didn't seem like you ran into any bears at night. At least the email didn't mention it, but you got some great shots. Here's the Milky Way rising over the water from Pinawa. Just beautiful stuff. Gia mentions in her email shooting during the blue hour. The blue hour is, after sunset, once most of those sort of orange colors have started to fade away, and you're really getting that deep blue in the sky, and the light is very, very different. And it really gives a great view to the foreground. And then, of course, you've got the Milky Way here rising up over the south. And if we, I thought we had a, this picture goes all the way, oh no, it's this picture goes all the way up. That's right. So here we have it over the water that is moving in the time lapse, but then this picture goes all the way up the Milky Way from Sagittarius all the way up into the Summer Triangle kind of region. Beautiful, beautiful pictures, Gia. Thank you very much for sharing those. That's some amazing, amazing shots. I don't do enough photography with just a camera and lens on a tripod kind of thing where you can get a nice wide field. I tend to zoom in on like one galaxy or one star or whatever, but these beautiful wide field views are spectacular. Great job. And that's the images that we have from you this month. You can always send us images anytime. You don't have to wait till the day before the show or whenever you happen to think of it. We would love to see what you're doing astronomy-wise. You can reach us through Facebook or through the comments on YouTube, or email is the best place for big images, space@manitobamuseum.ca. And we would love to share your images with the audience. Okay, let me see here. I think we're going to do this next.
Cool space stuff.
Okay, so last week I made a post after the Starship flight that generated a lot of interest, shall we say? I started off with, hey, maybe I was wrong. The Starship Flight 10 did not explode before launch or at launch or any time during the flight. Technically it exploded after it touched down in the water because it fell over, but that's what was supposed to happen. They weren't trying to recover it. Now, it wasn't a perfect mission, but compared to the 3 previous ones that all exploded, they're getting better. And I had actually just had some discussions with people over the last week about, can you really just fly rockets and blow them up and figure out what's going on? Or is it just too many problems that could be overlapping? Can you actually solve that or not? Well, it looks like it works to some degree because they were able to get a successful flight. Now, this Starship is still supposed to be the moon lander that people will be using to go to the moon next year, and it hasn't yet gotten off the ground or been able to refuel itself or any of the things that, basically, it's just not going to happen. And so I think I said something like they're still sort of swindling NASA out of that funding. They get about $2 billion for the moon landing aspect of Starship, and boy, did that hit a nerve with a few people. My post was shared to a bunch of other places where it's the mutual admiration society kind of thing, and what have you ever built, and all the typical troll kind of thing. So it was really funny actually to see the reach of my page go through the roof because of all these people yelling at me. I think I'll have to try and upset the Elon Musk fanboys a little more because man, it's great advertising. Anyway, the Starship did better than I thought it was going to. I still think that there's a lot of problems with it, and we'll talk about the moon landing related stuff in the next few. But credit where credit is due. Things are maybe getting better. We will see what the next flight does, and we will see what the decisions at NASA will be in terms of using Starship as a moon landing thing, because right now it is definitely the thing that is delaying all the Artemis stuff. So we will see what happens in the coming months, I guess. Today there was I don't know, they do this in the States where they bring in a bunch of politicians who call a bunch of witnesses who basically tell them things. I mean, you and I just Google that information, but they got to bring people in and put them in a chair and stuff like that and have them tell them stuff. And they were talking about the space program, and basically the past administrator of NASA basically says, well, China's going to land on the moon before the US. And the US, of course, is adamant that this can't happen. Well, China's moonlander just did a landing test this week successfully, which means, first of all, it actually exists, and second, it actually can do the job that it's supposed to do. Now, it's only designed for landing on the moon rather than being designed for making money and all the other things that Starship is designed for. So it's a simpler task. They're sort of going about it what I would argue is the right way. If you want to land on the moon, build something that can land on the moon. If you want to go to Mars, build something that can land on Mars, but don't expect the moon guys to fund it for you. It'll be really interesting to see what happens here, because nothing gets the Americans, what's the word? Fueled, no, not fueled, competitiveness. The space race. It was, the US versus the Soviet Union. Now it'll be the US versus China or whatever. But it'll be interesting to see if this makes any difference to the programs that are happening with the Artemis program. I would be glad to see China land people on the moon. I mean, they're Earthlings, right? We're all in this together, or we should be. Anyway, there is progress being made there. This is the SpaceX plan for landing on the moon. There's the Orion spacecraft on the right. There's the moon lander, much, much larger. And for that moon lander to get to the moon, you actually have to put it in orbit empty and then fuel it up with between 10 and 15 other starships that each have to go up to that first starship, connect to it, and then transfer all their fuel into it. And that that's never been done before, and there's no even idea how it can be done. It requires huge, complicated facilities down on the ground, and actually, the last time SpaceX tried doing that, their spaceship exploded. So it's a pretty complicated thing, but we'll have to see what the competition does. Forget about all that political stuff now. Here are the people that are going to go around the moon next April. Like what is that, 7 months out now? The spaceship is built. The rocket is assembled. They did some tests in the spacecraft. There's Jeremy Hansen, Canadian astronaut, one of the 4 that will go around the moon. The launch window is between February and April 2026. I would be very surprised if they make it before April, and frankly, I'd be very surprised if they make it before summer. But we met this guy. He came to the museum. Some of you came down and chatted with him, and he's going to fly around the moon. That's amazing. I'm really excited to to see this. We've been talking about Artemis for years now, and all of the ups and downs on the technical side, on the political side, and all these things. But now we're getting down to the point people are going to fly around the moon in a more sustainable kind of way. It's not just go there, be first, grab some rocks, but it's do this in a way that we can take the next step out from the International Space Station and start building our capabilities beyond Earth. Now, should we do that at the expense of everything else? Of course not. But the space program is a tiny drop compared to all of the budgets of all the countries involved. And so it's not like we have to not do anything else. We can do these big dream projects and still take care of things on Earth. All right, other new things. Well, if you've got a new rocket and a new spacecraft and a new crew, you need a new mission control center. The Artemis Mission Control Center was unveiled this week, and it kind of looks like all the other mission control centers, really, except they have nicer lights in the ceiling. I mean, it's not all just the big fluorescence or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Everything is coming together. All of these pieces, all of these projects that have been sort of running in parallel for years now are finally getting down to the point where everything is getting ready. And so hopefully we'll see Artemis 2 fly next spring, and then as soon as there's a moon lander ready, Artemis 3 will take people down to the surface. This I came across today just as I was doing random stuff. Okay, so the Artemis crew said, normally you hang a stuffed animal in your spacecraft and it hangs down during launch because of the acceleration and because of Earth's gravity. But then when you get to zero gravity, it starts floating around, and that's what tells you, oh, you're in zero gravity. It's called the zero-G indicator, and the Soyuz Russian pilots have done this for decades. So the Artemis crew ran a contest to say, well, what should we use for our zero-G indicator? There are 25 finalists from around the world, and one of those finalists is the Royal School in Winnipeg, their Skies Space Club, who I have spoken to, and I know some of them watch the show. So, hey, great job, you guys. So we've got a space bear here with a helmet, and there's all the details of what it'll look like and the colors and things like that, sizes and stuff like that. Check out the Artemis mascot design. All 25 of them are online, and I don't think they're doing public voting, but they're going to decide which one will be custom made for the mission, and I'm sure will also be find its way into the NASA gift shop as well. So great job, Skies. I'll have to come and talk to you guys again. You can tell me all about your space adventures. All right. We are almost out of time here, but we do, I just want to check Ulrika. Yeah, Jeremy Hansen did a great presentation at the Manitoba Museum. You guys were there for that. Yeah, he's been to us a couple of times, and we're hoping to see him, I don't know if we'll see him now before launch. The last 6 months before a big launch like that is probably pretty busy. But we will certainly look at getting him back, and we'll be covering the mission live as soon as all the details come out with that. Let's see here. All right. As always, we love to hear from you. We love to hear what you think of the show. If you'd like to see anything specific, we have some occasional segments that we're going to try and bring back. We have Ulrika's Binocular Challenge we'd love to get back occasionally, and we've got Connect the Dots, where we focus on a specific constellation. If there's other stuff you'd want to see in the show, let us know. We want to adapt things so that it serves your needs. And if you want to know what's going on up in the sky, you can always watch the episodes of the show, but we also have a blog on the Manitoba Museum website under the Planetarium section that is basically the sky for each month. I write that and put it up around the first of each month, so that's up there, and it'll tell you when meteor showers are and things like that. There's a lunar eclipse coming on September 7th and 8th. Is not visible from this half of the world. Basically, this entire hemisphere, North America, South America, can't see it. So I think that includes almost all of our regular visitors or viewers. So you don't have to worry about that. Saturn, we still have, we didn't even do the Saturn segment. Wow, I'm going way over. Okay, we're going to do this real quick. Sorry. Anytime I can use a Lord of the Rings reference, I absolutely will. Saturn, the Lord of the Rings, the planet, the ringed planet it's called. Actually, half of the planets in the solar system have rings. It's just that Saturn's rings are big and bright. Well, bright enough to see in almost any telescope. Now, Galileo's telescope was not quite good enough to show the rings as a ring. He actually thought that there were three stars sort of in a line, and then they started to mush together as he watched over the course of a few months, and he thought they were ears. Well, he didn't think they were actually ears, but that's how he referred to them. And over time, their appearance would change. Finally, things changed enough that you could kind of get a sense of, oh, okay, well, are those connected to the planet? Are they separate? Finally, you get to something like these images here with better telescopes and at the right time, and you could probably make the leap thinking, oh, there's a ring around it. But why would they change like that? Well, it turns out that Saturn's angle changes. So sometimes we see the rings edge on, sometimes we see them at an angle, and that varies over the course of Saturn's 30-and-a-half-year cycle around the sun. Christian Huygens was one of the guys that was able to sort of figure out what was going on. He thought it was a solid ring all the way around, and I'm sure it was from here that we see all the sort of artwork and cartoons of people walking on the rings of Saturn or things like that, as if it was a sort of a solid platform to walk through. In a telescope, right now, Saturn is not great. It's small. It's about half the size of Jupiter in the telescope because it's twice as far away. And the rings are almost edge on. You can barely see them there. But there are a couple of other objects around. This is Saturn's largest moon, Titan, sort of a little orange star that moves each day as it orbits the planet. And then there's a couple of other moons of the planet there. We zoom in a little bit more. It has some of the familiar clouds that Jupiter does, but just less intense. They're not quite as colorful. There's no great red spot or anything like that. The weather on Saturn is much calmer because weather is driven by heat from the sun. And so if you're farther from the sun, you're going to have less weather because your atmosphere is just colder. So we don't have quite the atmospheric fireworks that Jupiter has. But the rings more than make up for that in terms of what you can see. In this image, you can start to see that there's a little bit of a black gap in the rings there. And actually, as we look at Saturn through telescopes from different angles, it's much easier to see that there are several rings sort of nestled inside each other with some dark gaps between them. These are all my Saturn pictures. And they're taken over the course of, let's see, the bottom one was 2003. So that's when we had a really good open angle. And then this is sort of part way between, and then this was just a month ago. You'd think I'd get better at taking pictures, but anyway, there's a bunch there. Telescopes aren't the only way to study Saturn. We've got Pioneer. The Pioneer spacecraft, first one to go out past Saturn back in 1979, and it shot pictures like this, and you could see details of the rings. You could see some clouds and things like that. Still not amazing pictures, but they were for the time. And just a couple of years later, the Voyager spacecraft, with their better cameras and better, just generally the next generation of spacecraft, were able to get much nicer pictures. Here you really get a sense of Saturn in its sort of 3D kind of situation. It's casting a shadow onto the rings behind. The rings here are casting a shadow onto the cloud tops of the planet. It really does look sort of 3D. And some of the moons appear as little dots there. But Voyager zoomed in. Like, we got close-up pictures of the rings. Look at all of this detail that's going on in the rings here. There are thousands of rings, really. And none of them are solid. They're all made out of swarms of basically snowflakes. We got moons covered with craters, covered with ice. You've got moons with atmosphere. Titan is the only moon in the solar system that has a major atmosphere. In fact, it's almost big enough to be considered a planet by itself, except it goes around Saturn, not the sun, and so we call it a moon, but semantics. Then there was, a little bit of a gap, but the Cassini spacecraft went there in the early 2000s and spent a long time orbiting the planet and taking amazing images. If you want to just geek out over Saturn, just search Saturn Cassini images, and there are just thousands upon thousands of these beautiful images. And it had such good cameras that even though the storms on Saturn aren't as dramatic in visible light, there's all sorts of false color versions that will sort of amplify them. Like, look at this. There's a big vortex at the North Pole of Saturn that is shaped like a hexagon. Like, you don't see hexagon-shaped storms anywhere else. It shouldn't happen. We have a polar vortex. It's not blue like that, but as the planet rotates, it can set up these kind of situations. But why is it a hexagon? No idea. Look at the moons. Here's Titan with its atmosphere. These are not to scale. Some of them look like potatoes. This one looks like it's the Death Star from Star Wars. This one looks kind of like it's a walnut or something. Saturn actually has 247 moons. They just discovered more than 100 just a few months ago. Most of them don't even have names, they're just numbers now. But 247 moons. Here are some of my favorite Cassini shots. First of all, the one on the left, look how thin the rings are. If you did it to scale, the rings of Saturn are thinner than a piece of paper compared to their width. They're 150,000 kilometers across, like halfway from Earth to the moon. They're 10 or 30 meters thick. So incredibly thin, incredibly well defined and organized. Kind of a mystery why that is the case. The rings of Saturn might be very, very young. There might be, if the dinosaurs had telescopes and they'd looked at Saturn, maybe it didn't have rings that long ago, 65 million years ago. There are some theories that say maybe the rings are only a few thousand years old. Two moons crashed into each other and broke up, and the material got spread around by gravity, and you have these rings and they'll dissipate in a few thousand years. That's another theory. We just don't know. Here, the backlit view of the rings, though. The sun is right behind Saturn, so it's backlighting all of the things. Just a really, really cool view. Here is Titan. Titan is one of the places where we might find life in our solar system. We're not going to find life looking like you and me. We're not going to find humanoid life on Titan. We'll be lucky if we find microbial life, bacteria, single cell kinds of things. But a lot of the chemicals that life likes are present on Titan in large amounts. These dark areas are actually oceans, not water oceans though, oceans of natural gas, methane. So different chemistry than Earth, but some of the possibilities are there. I actually think that we'll find life first, either on one of the moons of Jupiter or maybe on Enceladus, which is an ocean moon of Saturn that has lots of water for it. But we'll see. This is a map of all the moons of Saturn. Saturn is this tiny little thing down in the bottom there. And the moons we see in a telescope are in this sort of teal green color. The blue moons are ones that we knew kind of reasonably well. And then some of them go backwards. The red ones all go backwards, but the bulk of them that we discovered recently are these backwards moons. And they go at all different angles. They're not just all going around it with the rings. Some of them go up and down. Some of them go at an angle. A really, really complicated system. For scale, way off to the bottom here, imagine the Earth as a tiny little dot in the middle of that circle, and that circle is the orbit of the moon. So roughly, 750,000 kilometers across. So these moons orbit way farther out than our moon. Saturn does some pretty cool things when you look at it in a telescope. Coming up on the night of September 19th and 20th, that's the night that Saturn is in opposition. It's opposite the sun, so it's visible all night long. It has its biggest moon, Titan, transiting across the surface and casting its shadow onto the surface. And there's actually, you might notice a tiny little moon there that I don't know if we'll be able to see or not, but this is something you can see in a small telescope. The rings of Saturn are visible in, you need to magnify probably about 30 or 40 times to get a view of it. So, unless you've got really powerful binoculars won't do it, but almost any telescope will. If you have good seeing conditions, you'll be able to also see the Titan transit. That'll be tough though. We'll be trying to do a live stream of that. This is what Saturn looks like through a telescope. You can see it sort of shimmering like that, and that's the atmosphere of the Earth distorting the light. We've talked a little bit about that twinkling effect, and so that can make it hard to see details. We will hopefully go live late on the night of the 19th, and right around midnight is when this transit starts. And if the weather is good here, we will be bringing that to you live. That'll be on my Scott the Skywatcher Facebook page and YouTube page, so you can follow me there. And let's see, I think, we are going to have to jump out of time here because because I have to go pick up my daughter at volleyball practice. We're already into school stuff. No, thank you all for joining the show. Thanks for visiting, being here, even though we delayed for a month. The next show will be the last Thursday of September. We're back on our regular schedule, and we'll be back for another episode of Dome at Home. Thanks again for joining us, and really nice to see you all. I hope you have some clear skies, not too cold, and get out there and enjoy the fall sky. Good night, everybody.